Hey everybody, it's Tmika. I am here to share with you guys a quick project that I created using the Prima Havana paper collection. I did some mixed media on the top. I think it turned out super cute, and I love the simple shabby of it all with a splash of mixed media. So I do have a tutorial following this little intro, but I wanted to share with you guys. I did change just a little banners, then you won't see that in the video. But it's a really quick and easy tutorial to follow. It is a voiceover because it was long, and in order for me to get all the parts in without it being super long, I had to speed it up and do like a voiceover. So if there's any questions about anything that you guys don't get or I sped past, just leave them down below and I'll be sure to comment, reply. So this is the front. It's layered. One thing that I did speed past, I said in the video, but I didn't explain. Behind here I said I added some chipboard to add some depth to the color. So yeah, this is what I was saying. I added chipboard to this top layer and then added it on top of the second layer that I stitched. So this is how it turned out. It's 5x7. Its closure is some double seam binding, which I think is just the easiest closure to do. So for all you newbies, you guys can easily duplicate this, and this is a great idea for a Christmas gift, birthday gift, graduation, wedding, anniversary, or just use it in your home. You do have the option of another photo being here, but I really like this paper so much that I decided to leave that plain. But you do have a space for a 4x6 photo here. And then on the inside, you have your booklet, which holds 6 photos all by itself. So that's that fits in there nicely. And then the photos I've tested, you can put in there as well. And then here's the other side. Really, really cute. I really like how this came together. And just really pretty, really pretty. And that's the back. Super cute. So if you guys are interested in learning how to make this, then go ahead and stay tuned. I may list this on my Etsy, so stay tuned for that. All the links for everything will be down below in the description box. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. Alright guys, starting out, I'm going to be using a Prima paper pad. It's called Havana. It's an A4 paper pad. Of course, you want any 8x8 or higher paper for this project. And I'll be using some 110-pound weight cardstock. You want to make sure that you use a heavy cardstock. I'll be using white. Some double-sided tape, and as backup, my ATG tape gun. I'll be using a bone folder and some scissors, and also some lightweight chipboard. So gather those items and let's get going. I cut my chipboard down to 2 pieces at 5x7 and 1 piece at 1x7. That will be my spine. This is how thin the profile will be. Super easy and quick to put together. You want to tape 2 pieces of your cardstock together right at the seams to elongate the paper so it is long enough to cover the length and width of the chipboard. Once you adhere your tape, go ahead and connect those 2 pieces together. You want to make sure they are secure by rubbing over them with your bone folder or a hard press. Now you want to take your chipboard that you cut at 5x7, remembering that that middle piece, that 1x7, is the spine. It belongs in the middle, and add double-sided tape to all of the pieces. Once you've added your double-sided tape, you want to go ahead and remove the backing and add them to your 2 pieces of cardstock that you chose for your project. Make sure that you align the spine on the middle of the underside where the paper connect. Make sure you line the spine up with that line. And once you get that laid down, you want to go ahead and lay down the 2 5x7 pieces on either side of the spine. Once you've laid out your 2 5x7 pieces and your spine, you want to go ahead and take your bone folder and just do a gentle outline of the perimeter of all of your pieces. This is to prep the paper to let it know that it will be folding soon. So you want to prevent as much cracks and tears as possible. So once you've done a gentle score, go ahead and gently fold over all the edges of your cardstock so that it can go ahead and fold over easier once you add your double-sided tape. Once you're done folding over your edges, go ahead and trim off the excess so that all 4 sides will be as equal as possible. You want to at least leave an inch border around to allow for folding over. The next thing we're going to do is miter the corners, and that is simply just cutting off the corner at an angle where the score marks intersect. just cut it right above where they meet. And this is what it should look like when you're mitering all 4 of the corners. So after you add your double-sided tape to all the flaps, go ahead, take it off, and as you see here, I am folding over my edges. So that's what it should look like. And go ahead and fold up your binder so that it will start to get used to folding in the direction that you want it to, because it'll get stiffer as you add more cardstock. Use your bone folder if you need to, and this is how it should look. So go ahead and line the inside of your binder, and I keep saying binder, the inside of your cover, and I just measured mine to 5 by 7, and I'm going ahead and creasing the folded edges again so that I can start to let the book know that it needs to form the way that I want it to form. So what we're going to do now is take some 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Of course I'm using white, and then I'm going to mat it later with some pattern paper. And on the 11-inch side, because I'm using 8.5 by 11, you want to cut it down to 6 1/4, and you want to do this 4 times. So once you're done with that, you're going to have some leftovers. Go ahead and save some of those pieces. You can use them later in the project as a photo mat, so be sure to save that. Take the 4 pieces that you cut at 6 1/4 by 8.5 and score those at 4 1/4 on the 8.5-inch side. As you can see me doing here, we're making booklets. That's really what we're doing. That's the measurement's going to be 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and we're making 4 of those. So they're going to be put back to back. And you'll see here in the video, you want to make sure that you give them a good crease because they have to match up exactly. So you don't want any one hanging over the other. So after I've added my HEG tape to the back of one of the cardstock pieces, go ahead and line those up. I usually start at my top edges and make them meet. That way everything else, if I've scored correctly, everything else should line up. So you want to do that for both of those pieces, and each of those will create a photo base for 6 photos a piece. So you'll end up with 12 photos just with those 2 little easy peasy booklets. So get your cardstock out. Of course, I'm using this Prima Havana, as I mentioned earlier. I usually take out 2 pieces for my front and back covers, so I know not to mess with those while I'm matting my paper, because I tend to just mat everything all together or cut everything all together, and then if I forget, then I don't have any cover pieces. So again, the measurements for this is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, so you'll want to cut it down just to have a little bit of border if you're into that. So I just cut mine at 1/8 of an inch. So my pattern paper is cut at 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. So, and I've layered that, all of those 12 pieces for both booklets. I do want to show you another option. You could just layer the front and back, and the recipient can just put photos in the inside, full 4 by 6 photos, and you don't have to worry about matting those. And it also saves on pattern paper if that's what you're looking to do. So here I've completed both of my little booklets, and again, it's 12 photos, easy enough to duplicate, and duplicate in a hurry if you need to. So we're going to set those aside for now and work on the pockets that will hold those booklets. So you want to cut some paper down. Of course, you want to coordinate it with everything, and we're going to cut it down to 8 3/4 by 5 3/4. And on the 8 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. We're going to flip it, and we're going to score it again at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And then we're going to flip it to the bottom side. So it'll be the left side, the right side, and one at the bottom, depending on, it's no, rhyme or reason, just either side. And you're going to score it again at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So that's what you should have. So now we're going to do some border punching. This is completely optional. You can feel free to eliminate this total step. It just gives it a little bit extra oomph when you're doing it. So I'm just going to take this little EK Success wavy border punch and punch across the top. If you're not using a punch, then skip this step. The difference is when you mat your paper, you're going to have to punch out a coordinating piece along the same way so it won't look weird if you choose to do a punch, but I'll show you that later. But if you're not, go ahead and cut off the edges like I'm showing you now. So you see at the bottom here, I'm drawing it so you can see there's some score marks. right here in this corner, you want to cut out all of those score marks, and I'm just going to draw a quick little angle so those so you can see exactly where I'm cutting, and we're going to do it on the left and the right side. So as you can see, bring it a little closer here, you're going to cut right at that angle, so you're cutting off a little off the bottom, a little off the top, and that whole bottom right corner off. And you're going to do the same thing. You're really just cutting it at an angle. So that's what you should have when you're done. So if you're going to go ahead and punch your top out, this is where you want to do it. I don't know why I always start in the middle. I also don't know why I punch upside down. It's just what I do. I just like it better than trying to literally match up everything, flip right side up. So it's just easier for me this way. So go ahead and punch that out if you're doing that. And I'll show you later how to mat this if you've used a punch. So we're going to fold this over hill and valley. So the line that's closest to you, the inside line, there's two marks, but the inside score mark, you're going to fold that going down and give it a good crease. And then you're going to fold the other score mark going up. So it'll be a cute little accordion. So then take your bone folder and give it a good crease so that that can fold under nicely. And you want to do the same thing. The inside score mark you want to fold down, and then on the outside you want to fold it upwards. And then give it a crease. Now what we're going to do with this bottom half of the score mark, since it tends to stick out a little bit than I'd like, the bottom half you just want to cut a sliver off. I just cut it in half. There's two little sections down there. So one that's closest to you, fold down, and then that little piece fold it up. So you'll see it when you do your own, what I'm talking about. So then that's your pocket, a nice, easy, simple, flat pocket. So you want to repeat that twice. You do have the option, of course, to layer the inside of your book with pattern paper, unless you just want to have it all one color. Totally up to you. Save on pattern paper. You just make two of those pockets and place them on the left and the right side. But I am choosing to cover my book up with some pattern paper. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to leave a tiny little border around. So, and I think it looks super cute how I've laid that out. I even did the spine piece, and the little border is just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the size of the book, which is 5 by 7, which is pretty much what I've done throughout the whole mini album. So again, if you're ready, go ahead and make sure you line up your pocket and place it on there. If you're done, no punching, then yeah, go ahead and lay it that, and then of course lay your pattern paper on top. But if you've done a little bit punching, I'm going to show you how I punch my top edge so that I know that it matches accurately. So we know that we want the end result to be close to 4 3/4, which is the measurement of the pocket. So I just cut my paper down to 4 3/4. I don't worry about the length. And then I go ahead and I punch the top so that I'm able to match up the marks with my pocket. So I'll show you here. So now you can see why I punched first, because I'm not able to start off with lining it up with the edge of that paper. So to ensure I have an accurate, or as accurate as I can, line up, I just I punch it first, and then later I line it up. So I'm just going to see where I want it to be, and that fits perfectly for me. And I'm just going to draw little tick marks on the outside of where I want to start and end. And then I'm going to grab my trimmer and cut off the excess. So I will take it back to the pocket just to make sure everything lines up. And then I'm just going to take an extra little trim off of both sides and the bottom to make sure that I do still have that 1/8 of an inch border that I had throughout the entire mini album. So this is what I have when I'm done. So go ahead and tack that down, and I've done both of mine, and I've used HEG tape for both. So now I'm going to show you how to just put it on. You really just need to put it on. I'm using some red line tape to adhere my pocket to my book. It's a thinner tape that I had. You can use any double-sided tape. So I usually line my pocket up with the sides, because I don't want it to go over or under the top or the bottom, and then I can quickly cuff up the bottom portion of that pocket. That's why I made it a little bit smaller so it doesn't hang off that edge. See how close it would be? So works super, super cute. works well. So that's that side. Go ahead and take your bone folder if you need to give it an extra press, and then repeat this same thing to the right side. Look how cute that is. I just love it. Alright, so you can see that the booklet fits perfectly inside that pocket. So you have your 12 photos, and like I said in the beginning, it's easy and it's quick, and you can easily duplicate this for many special occasions. So go ahead and repeat that pocket to the other side, and this is what you should have when you open up your book. Very pretty presentation. So I wanted to give you the option of putting a photo mat on the front. So we do have the 12 photos that we can use, but you can also use the fronts of the book for 2 more photo mats. So you can have 14 photos. If you haven't used like pretty paper that you don't want to cover, this is the best option to just cover it up and then add a photo on top so the recipient can have more photos on here. But if you've used pretty paper, just leave it be and let the design speak for itself. I'm just going to do one of the sides. So I only have 13 photos, but I'm just wanted to show you that of what you know, an option that you can do. So using that extra paper that we had in the beginning left over from when we made our booklets, you want to go ahead and cut that down to size to fit for your photo. So I've cut that down to a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and then I've added this cute little page corners to match. And I'm just using this old punch I've had from way back in the day that just punch photo corners, and I'm using some scratch paper to punch out 4 of them. You can also just cut out like a little triangle or fold over some paper and make like a little tiny corner pocket if you'd like, or you can just leave it blank if you want to too. If you have a stamp, that's good too, to say place photo here, or just leave it blank. That tells the recipient that a photo goes there. And look at that, super cute. You got the pretty paper on the one side and an extra photo on the other. Now we want to go ahead and work on the covers. So I've cut down 2 sheets of cardstock from my collection. The smaller piece there is cut at 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and the larger piece there is cut at 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. So it's just 1/8 of an inch smaller, and then I'm going to layer them on top. So what I did was take it to my machine and sew a zigzag stitch all around the perimeter of both of those sheets of paper. We're going to do a smidge of mixed media, so I'm taking some white chalk paint, any paint will do, and I'm going to add a little dab to my bowl, and I'm adding some water to that because I want to whitewash my paper. And whitewashing is just basically toning down the stark colors in something, so whether it's jeans or paper or whatever. So I'm just doing that to both of my sheets of paper to reduce the bright colors in the collection. So now I'm taking some texture paste and I'm adding a little bit of the chalk paint because the texture paste, as you can see, is gray and the chalk paint is white, and I really want my paste to be more of a white color. And I'm adding a stencil that I'm using just to add some more texture to the front of my cover, and I'm just using an old razor scraper to add that on there. I don't have any fancy tools, but they all work for me. So I'm just adding that texture paste to my cover in a thick batch, and look how cute that looks. So I'm adding a little bit of some spray mist in a coordinating color. This I got from a Recollections brand. I'm just adding just a little bit, and I'm dabbing off the excess. So I'm going to add a little bit of ribbon to the top, and this ribbon, I love the striped, but I didn't like how wide it was. So I'm just splitting it down the middle. I'm going to take a lighter and light the ends to seal it so that the frayed edges won't matter. And I've done this to several pieces so that I can add it to the front of my book. And now you can see I have a little adhesive sticker of a frame. I'm just adding some coordinating paint just to paint that frame. The frame is a beige color, so I wanted it to coordinate. And then I'm taking some paper flowers and I'm doing the same thing. In that little top, I've added a little bit of water so that the flower isn't as chalky or, you know, paint caked on. So I didn't like that look. I've grabbed a little bit of cheesecloth from my stash. I get these at the Dollar Tree during the fall time. They have them in a lot of different colors, so it's fun to use these in crafts. So I'm cutting it down to size just to add a little bit of texture to my project. And I added a dab of hot glue on there so you guys can see what that looks like. And then I'm just going to add some ribbon on top using my hot glue gun so that I can create like a little present or a little bow effect to the front of my cover. So I'll later take the extra of that ribbon and make a double bow, or make a bow and then make another bow and layer it on top. That's my version of the double bow. And then I'll take the ends and give them like a little fishtail. This frame was an Easter frame from the Target dollar bin. On the back it has like laundry sentiments on it, but we don't need the back, we just need the frame. So I've added double-sided tape, pop dots to the back, foam tape, and it's plain, so I'm going to use that on my mini album cover. And I'm going to add that frame that we painted earlier. It's nice and dry and it's pretty color, and I'm adding that right to the top of that wood piece. You can see it kind of peek down, plus it gives it an extra little texture to the front of the cover. There I am fussing with these bows again. They are not my friend, but this is the point I decided to make 2 bows because I thought it would give it a little bit extra. So I'm making the second bow. I'm just going to add some hot glue to the back and layer them on top of each other. So now I'm just getting some flowers from my stash and arranging them so that they can center around that little bow and frame set. I wanted to kind of make that my focal point. I've added some tiny little stamens, again from my stash, no particular place, and I'm adding hot glue to these flowers to secure them to the book. So you can see how that double bow just steps out. It looks really cute. Didn't want to do too much, didn't want to do too little. This is just enough. So I'm just going to take my scissors and clip off those ends of that ribbon. Later on, or maybe in the picture, the end result, you'll see that I did make those into a fishtail. So the paper has some black dots in it, but they kind of muted along when I did the whitewash, and I wanted to bring those black dots back in. So we're going to do a little bit of a splatter. So I'm using some black paint and some water, and it's actually molding paste is what it is. And I added a little water to it, to a paintbrush, and I'm lightly just tapping it on my cover. See, it just adds just that extra little oomph to your project, and it brings those black dots right back out. So I'm going to let that air dry for a little bit. I don't want to hit it with my heat tool because it'll loosen my glue on my flowers and other stuff. So and this is the sentiment that I've chosen. It says marvelous. It brings out a little bit of the gold that is needed, as you know, a color that sparkles. And I'm adding some seam binding because I want to use it as my closure. So I've already added or I'm adding some double-sided tape, but I'm going to add some seam binding to use as the closure. And you'll see that here in a second. You could use anything, ribbon. You could use, if you have some type of metal closure, loop and clasp situation, you can do that as well. So just taking off my double-sided tape and securing that seam binding, because that's going to go underneath all of the hot glue from the covers. So it's going to definitely stay, but I needed it to make sure, I needed to make sure that it was going to stay, you know, on its own before adding everything else, because I don't want it to pull up. Make sure you leave it a little bit loose so the recipient can put the photos in there. So I've mounted the little piece that we just decorated onto the base piece, and I've added just a little bit of cushion by way of lightweight chipboard underneath that first piece so that it can pop up just a little bit. Take it off the tape and just add it to the cover. Really easy. And then I'm also just going to take a couple moments and mat the front and mat the back and the sides of the mini album with more of pattern paper from the Prima Havana collection. I decided to add to the mini album by bringing out that gold from the sentiment with 2 little bling pieces down at the bottom, and I got that little bling box from Michael's. So just trimming up everything and just finishing it up, and I think it turned out absolutely gorgeous. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to like this video, comment down below on what you thought about the process, and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And then if you want, you can follow me on Instagram. I am always over there, probably over there a lot more than I am on Facebook. But either way, I love to see you on other social medias. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.